How's it going, everybody? It's your boy KCG Trades, and we have another weekly watch list video, and let's just get right into it. So last week was a pretty tough week in regards to growth stocks. We took a pretty big hit, especially in a lot of the stocks that we were watching last week, but it's part of it. You know, we did mention that the QQQ and the SPY, the indexes were a little bit extended, so a pullback is healthy. You know, there's nothing wrong with a pullback. It's something we actually embrace, something we want, and even though it hurts our accounts a little bit, it is good for the overall bull market to continue. So let's just get right into the video. Let's start with the SPY and QQQ analysis. Taking a look here at the QQQ, same thing, overall uptrend still intact. We did have a pretty big pullback. We did have a pretty good pullback throughout the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it did hold the 21 EMA. So this is really good news. Held the 21 EMA, bounced, and Friday we had another red day, but the 21 EMA is still holding. This is exactly what we want to see in an overall uptrend. As we see here, over the past couple months, the 21 EMA has been a good reference point for possible bounces. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's obviously it might not happen again, but the fact that we do have reference to it happening in the past, it's a good possible entry point for going long in a few positions here. So for growth stocks especially, there are still some stocks setting up. Some are still a little bit extended, some are still now a little messy, but there's always stocks you could find to potentially trade. But if there isn't, you don't take any trades. All right, remember, this is a market where you don't have to trade every day. You know, like if there's nothing there for you, you don't trade. You don't want to be, trigger happy, and you just want to make sure you're always taking the best opportunities possible. So that's QQQ. We're still looking good, so I'm expecting a possible bounce here. We may get further downside. I don't know. We might hit the 50-day. We have no idea. But it is possible for a potential bounce, and I would love to see new all-time highs. So that's QQQ. Next, we'll go to the SPY. All right, so we have the SPY pulled up here. Overall uptrend still intact, like we mentioned. The only difference this week was the S&P 500 actually outperformed the Nasdaq, as we actually held its 10 EMA. It held its 10 EMA. This is great to see. The reason is because there was more rotation in the market this past week. Rotation flowed out of growth names and flowed into the more older names, the more names that got hit with COVID. Those type of sectors like the banks, cruise lines, all those names actually ripped this week. So this is actually good to see. You do want rotation. You want money flowing in and out of sectors. You don't want money just flowing into one sector and flowing out of every other sector. That makes markets unhealthy. So the fact that money is flowing in everywhere makes this market more healthy and gives us a more sustained bull market, a more sustained uptrend. So this is great to see. For now, we're just riding the wave. This could potentially just continue its move upwards, or we don't know. This could definitely pull back to 21 EMA, pull back to the 50 moving average like it did a couple weeks ago. So we just want to stay active and stay ready. So now we're just going to look at the names for the week. I'm going to start with apps. Digital Turbine was on my watch list last week, I believe. This has been doing great. I'm still in this position. If you watch my previous video on the earnings gap up, I'm still in this from the $72 position on this earning gap up, and we're just watching it ride. It did almost hit the 100 century mark, but then just pulled back on very low volume, held its 21 EMA, and actually broke out of this bull flag, falling wedge type, and we're looking for a continued move higher. So there's no real entry point for this. Just keep this on your radar because it has been showing strong strength. Does have strong fundamentals, and look at this. This is just beautiful. All right, so I wouldn't be surprised for this to, curl back up, go sideways a little bit, curl back up, and then ultimately hit all-time highs and hit the 100 century mark. So I would keep this on your radar. It's definitely on mine. Next we have Celsius Holdings. This is probably my top pick for the next week. Last week it was setting up, but wasn't able to break out. But it actually formed a better setup this week than last week. Now it's forming this symmetrical triangle here. It's having higher lows and it's getting really tight here. I really want to see a breakout out of this downtrend line here, and it's actually setting up a VCP pattern. If you really take a look at it, going here, and it's getting tighter. And then so I do want to see maybe like one more pullback that just goes like to right here, and then just ultimately just break out into all-time highs. So we are getting that VCP action. It might not happen. It might just potentially just explode up into all-time highs. I did actually try to on Friday, but then just squatted. So we might see some more sideways action, a little pullback and a rep higher. But I'm very bullish on this stock right now. And I'm definitely watching this for a position coming into next week. All right, so the next stock we have is DDD, or 3D Systems. And if we noticed, a lot of the stocks that I was watching last week are also in my watch list this week. This is due to the fact that a lot of the names I'm watching got hit with a pretty good pullback, which is making the setups even better than last week. And 3D Systems is one of them. It's forming a perfect holy grail setup here. Undercut the 21 EMA and rallied above it. Volume patterns are amazing here. Accumulation in the first 3 days, and it's just been letting it ride. This is the first time it's touching the 21 EMA, so that makes it even better. And we actually do see here that it tried to rally above this low, but squatted a bit. I actually did take a position on Friday above this 44.10 level, so I am down a bit, but I'm just letting it ride with my stop loss at the $40 level. We're also looking for this to break out of this little bull flag pattern here, and if it does with good volume, I don't see why I can't hit back into all-time highs, and retest that pattern, retest that level, potentially go above it. So this is another stock that I'm watching really hard. I only took a half position on Friday due to the fact that it was Friday. I didn't want to go all in my regular position on a Friday, because I was very cautious about possible squatting, which did happen. So I am definitely looking to add to my position come Monday. All right, so the next stock we have is DKNG, or Draftkings. This is forming, I don't know if we could really call this a cup and handle, because of the cup. Technically, I don't know if it's considered a cup, but the handle part is acting very nicely. Essentially, this is like a low risk entry point, which I did on Thursday, due to the fact that it retested the prior breakout. It had very low volume on the pullback, as well as reclaimed the 21 EMA. So I actually took a position here at the low risk entry, with a stop loss just under the day's low. And luckily on Friday we got a upgrade, which caused the stock to gap up and hold the 10 EMA. So now I'm looking for basically a retest of prior highs and a potential breakout into all-time highs above this 64.78 level, which is where I'll be looking to add to this position. I actually did tweet this out on Thursday, how nice this pattern was, retesting this breakout with low volume and a bullish wedge. So yeah, hopefully we could see this continue higher and get above this 64.78 level, and then just move into all-time highs. So the next stock we have is DocuSign, another one that was in my stock to watch list last week. I was watching it right here. It did break out, but then it squatted. It then pulled back into the 21 EMA and recovered, and then tried to break out again. Now it squatted again, so this gives me a little bit of caution, but I am very bullish on this stock because of the strong fundamentals and the fact that it's been going sideways for 8 months. So when this rips, I do really believe it's gonna rip hard, so I have my eyes on this. I'm watching potentially for it to go a little more sideways, or on maybe another pullback, just to get a low risk entry here, and then hopefully let it rip. You could see that it wants to rip. The volume was strong here when it did rip into 275 level, but squatted. So this stock wants to go. Maybe it's just waiting for the market to go back into a strong uptrend for it. Waiting for the market to continue its run higher for this to rip. It just looks like the market is holding it back. It's a basketball underwater. So let's see if this could just rip once the market finishes its little correction. All right, so the next stock we have is FLGT, or Fulgent Genetics, another stock forming a beautiful holy grail setup here. If we take a look at the prior history, the stock broke out of a beautiful base on very strong volume at the beginning of the year around the $50 level, and essentially quadrupled ever since. In a month and a half, essentially quadrupled. It didn't even hit the 21 EMA one time, so now it's pulling back on lesser volume, I would say. The pullback, the days where it did pull back, it was on low volume except for this specific day here. And then now we're holding the 21 EMA. It did go under it, but then rallied strong above it. Now 2 days back-to-back hammer candles on the 21 EMA, exactly what you want to see in a Holy Grail setup. Now this stock is very volatile. It is very, it goes crazy. So like, for example, went from 143 to 112 in one day, so this is one you want to be careful with. You don't want to put like a full position size into it just because of how volatile it is, but the setup forming here is very low risk. The stop loss would be the 125 level, and your entry would be right above this candle here at the around 141 142 level. So you're risking about $17. You don't, like I said, you don't want to put your whole position size into it. Maybe like a half position. That's how I'm going to play it, and just see how it is if it could break out of this little bull flag here. Other than that, this stock is looking very good, and another one I'm strongly watching for this upcoming week. All right, so the next stock we have is Farfetch FTCH. There's no real setup forming here, but the fact that this broke into all-time highs this past week, when growth stocks were taking a beating, is very telling. The fact that this is hitting all-time highs when growth stocks are, like correcting or going sideways or breaking down. This is a relative strength leader. All right, so now that the fact this is all-time highs, you want to put this on your radar. Like for me, if we take a look here, had a very strong base and broke out on beautiful volume and just ripped for about 2 months, went sideways for another 2 months, and then now we're breaking into all-time highs again. So the patterns forming and the accumulation is beautiful. It's exactly what you want to see in a strong stock. No real big pullbacks, just sideways action, consolidating its gains. So no real sellers as well. And like I said, the fact that it's in all-time highs, great to see. So like I said, there's no real setup forming yet, but I just you want to put this on your radar to see if any setup would form with maybe like some sideways action, like some flagging action, so you could enter this, because that's what I'm going to do. All right, so the next stock we have is GRWG, or GrowGeneration. Another stock that's in the marijuana space that is benefiting from Joe Biden and the Democrats. And it's a leader in the marijuana space because of the fact of its strong technicals, as well as the fact its strong fundamentals. If we take a look at the past couple months, broke out of this nice little base, broke out here strongly, and then it just went sideways for a couple months. So this was a sign that the stock is getting accumulated and not being sold off, and then just ripped higher and continued to rip higher. Had a couple pullbacks to the 21 EMA and pulled back once to the 50 EMA, but then setting up here in the past 2 weeks, it held its 21 EMA. So this is exactly what you want to see. So we're looking for basically a breakout of this downtrend line here above this 59.83 level. So basically a $60 level is where I'm going to be looking to place a buy entry, and my stop loss would be below this candle here at the 54 level. If we see reference here, this stock loves to break out of its little downtrend lines. Broke out here, broke out here, broke out here. So I'm looking for another one here. Hopefully if the market can basically find its way higher again, I do believe this one will rip. The past couple weeks, marijuana stocks did rip, and then now just pulling back nicely and just flagging here. So I do expect more continuation in the upcoming weeks, and GRWG is the one I'm really watching. All right, so the next stock we have is LAZR, or Luminar Technologies. This stock has essentially been just going sideways for the past couple of months, creating this symmetrical triangle pattern here. The past couple of days is what got me interested, because of the fact that it did try to break out and kind of failed miserably, but it pulled back on very, very low volume here. And it held its new 50-day moving average, had a little nice hammer candle here, and the next day popped off due to the fact that it had news that Apple was in talks with this company in regards to its technology, so it did pop. I'm not basing this position or buying the stock based off Apple news. Never do so, but the fact that it's setting up and it's still holding this symmetrical triangle is giving a potential low risk entry here. And if news can, support this stock where Apple maybe partners with this stock or something, then hey, I'll take it. If the stock could basically curl up back here and then retest this level and then just break out. So if we see here, the fact that it was very low volume here gives us a sign that people aren't really selling this stock. This stock doesn't really want to break down. And the fact that it bounced back very quickly on the news, showing you that there is a lot of potential here for this stock to break out. So I'm watching this for a breakout above this downtrend line here around the 38 level, and then obviously for a breakout above the $40.20 level, and then the $41 level, which can happen quickly with this stock. All right, so the next stock we have is Cloudfare NET, another stock that was in my watch list last week. And the fact that growth stocks took a hit, as I mentioned, this stock literally just went sideways for 4 days in a row. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just went sideways, held its 50-day moving average. Volume was a little bit concerning due to the fact that a little bit higher, so we would have liked to see lower volume. But the fact that it was still holding its 50-day is a positive sign. Like we mentioned last week, it did just announce earnings in a gap below, but the fact that it's holding, not breaking down any further, is good to see. It is creating like a little bull flag here, so we're actually watching this for a breakout above this 85.9 level, just to break out of this small consolidation, and then another breakout above this 87.57 level for it to break, to fill its gap and then potentially break into all-time highs. So that's what I'm watching with Cloudfare. This stock has been beautiful, had a nice double bottom pattern here, broke out, huge volume breakout, flagged here on very low volume, then broke out again on strong volume. If you take a look at the volume patterns, it has been very, very strong. And here it's just an outlier due to the fact that it was earnings release. So the accumulation on this is very strong, and I would not be surprised for this to touch 100 very soon. All right, so the next stock we have is NIO, another stock that was in my watch list last week. And if we take a look here, the setup is getting even prettier this week. It's still holding this bull flag channel here. It did undercut the 50-day, but it recovered above it. And what's really intriguing me about this setup is it has an inside day on Friday with low volume, if we see here. So essentially what I'm looking for is the trend to continue back upwards, starting with a move above this inside day candle. So if I'm getting into this, I would want to put a buy stop 10 cents above this inside day candle around the 56.30 level, and then have a stop loss below this low candle here at the 52.50 level. And that's what I'm planning to do myself, and I'm just going to let it ride. Hopefully we could get above these moving averages, retest this upper trend line support, resistance, and then potentially break out into all-time highs. That's what I'm really looking for. We could use this as our low risk entry setup with its inside day, and hopefully we could just continue its move higher. We did have 7 days down in a row, so that's enough in my books. So hopefully we could just continue higher here once we get above this inside day. All right, so the next stock we have is PLTR. I don't even know how to say their company name, so I'm not even going to say it. What's really intriguing me about this formation is this candle right here. Textbook setup, it's called, I believe it's like a stranded baby reversal or something like that. Okay, so I'll just explain it for you. So basically we had a red candle, a big down day on this day, and the next day it gapped below the low of the day, which it did gap below, and it creates a doji candle. And then the next day it gaps above the high and then closes above the high. So basically this baby is stranded. And essentially that's like a reversal setup, if I'm not mistaken. So this is really intriguing me due to the fact that high volume accompanied it as well. If we see here, 2 of the highest volume days recently. So this is a good possible reversal entry here, and the way you would enter it is above this high at the $30 level for a long setup. I believe the volume was very high because of the fact that Kathy Wood initiated a position, if I'm not mistaken. And hey, if the stock is good enough for her, then it should be good enough for you. Obviously, do your own research, do your own due diligence, but technically this stock is forming, and this stock, technically speaking, this stock is forming very well, and I'm going to be looking to get into this above the $30 level. The patterns have been great. It broke out of this symmetrical triangle here, and then just now bull flagging. It's kind of messy here because we had a couple gap downs, but the fact that we got back up and held it is a good sign. So that's what I'm going to be looking for this stock. All right, so the next stock we have is PRPL, Purple Innovation. I believe this is like a mattress company, and I've heard a lot of good reviews about the stock, about the company. Sorry, like it's like best mattress people have ever slept on. But that's not why you want to buy a stock. You want to buy a stock because of the technicals and fundamentals, and this stock has both. So this is actually one of the stocks that are actually setting up to break into all-time highs. So this is why I really wanted it to have to be on my radar. Overall, it's been in a strong uptrend. Broke out of this downtrend line here beautifully, and it's just been chugging along higher. A couple pullbacks here, but now it's just basing sideways. Now it's looking to break into all-time highs. On Friday, it did have pretty good volume relative to the past couple weeks, and I'm just looking for a break above this $40.50 level for a move higher, and hopefully we break above this last high, 41.08, into new all-time highs. It is setting up for a side flat base breakout, so that's really what I'm watching here. All right, so the next stock we have is Skillz, SKLZ. It is setting up beautifully here, strong prior uptrend. Volume patterns are amazing. It did have a nice little gap up and held its gap up. Strong volume past for 2 days, and then pulled back 9 days in a row on relatively low volume. So it's all setting up for another move higher. It's just digesting its gains here. It did actually undercut the gap's low, but then recovered back above it. So that's exactly what you want to see. So I do expect this stock to move higher now due to the fact it undercut the lows and then it rallied back above it. So I'm looking for an entry, basically a breakout above this channel here, and a move and an entry above the 37.30 line, 30 points, sorry. So just basically above the highs here. We're looking for an entry point, and then the stop loss would be just under this low around the 34.50 level, and we're gonna hopefully see this stock move higher. Obviously, it might not happen. It could definitely fill its gap, but we're prepared for whatever happens. If it does want to break out of this channel, that's how I'm gonna be playing this stock. And that's pretty much it for that stock. Very simple. Just want to execute when the time comes. And yeah, I really like this because of the strong volume accumulation patterns. One to watch for sure. All right, so the next stock we have is Snapchat, and very similar to Farfetch, FTCH. It did break into all-time highs when other growth stocks were struggling or just going sideways. So this is another relative strength leader. The setup isn't fully there because of the fact that it just broke out. So the setup was actually on Friday if you were able to take this. But it doesn't mean we can't continue to watch this and continue to stock for an entry. The volumes has been very strong the past couple of weeks. Strong accumulation patterns are still occurring. It did hold its earnings gap, continued higher. Recently announced earnings, I believe, 2 weeks ago. And look at this candle. It's just beautiful, and then just been digesting, broke into all-time highs again. So what I'm looking for personally is a red to green move. So I want this stock to open up red, hopefully get a little gap down, just maybe above to the 64, 68 level. Might not happen, but then I'm watching for a move to go back into green. So I really want this stock to open red on Monday, and as soon as it goes green, I'm going to buy it because I believe this could continue to rip higher with its strong momentum. So that's what I'm really watching with Snapchat. And the last stock we have is the Trade Desk TTD, another one that was on my watch list last week, and we were watching this breakout. I missed it. I missed this breakout because it kind of broke down a little bit, and then Friday we just had a bonanza day, broke out of this little early cheat here. Super strong volume. Obviously we're not on all-time highs yet, but this is definitely a sign for the fact that this wants to keep moving higher and retest prior highs. So exact same thing I'm watching with this stock as I'm watching with Snapchat is a red to green move. So we still have, it's not too far away from the entry point at 880. So hopefully we get a little red opening around the 880, 890 level. Obviously, it might not happen, but if it does, I'm taking advantage of it 100% and going for a red to green move to continue higher. So essentially, that is pretty much it in regards to my weekly watch list video. If you have any questions, once again, please leave them down in the comments below. If you want to contact me at KCG Trades on Twitter, I'd really appreciate it if you did like this video. Hit the like, subscribe button, share with your friends and family. Hope you guys have a wonderful week, and let's kill it. Take care.